Welcome back, everybody, to Hoops HD. It
Woohoo!
is the season finale of preseason brackets, of preseason shows. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the preseason,
Season
the season
finale.
preseason. I don't know what it is. It's the last preseason show.
Welcome back to our continuing season previews for 2025-2026. We are, as we record this, it's a little after 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, November 2nd. We are less than 11 hours away from the start of the season.
And
Uh,
I love this I keep learning more about this graphic, chat. If you can put it back up for just a second. At first, I thought, I don't know what I thought. It was like some AI image, but I later learned it was an actual photograph. And then just earlier, about an hour ago, I learned this is a live action photograph of an actual game.
Okay, this is our preseason bracketology show. First of all, I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got David Griggs, unfortunately, with us here, as well, along with John Teitel, Matt Sikowski, and John Stalika as well. And what we're going to be doing is a little bracket reveal, Selection Sunday style, from a bracket that Mr. Stalika, you put together. So why don't I throw it over to you first to explain how this was put together for tonight's show?
This is a bracket for the past 6 or 7 years. What I'll do is I'll take both the AP and the coaches poll. So what I'll do is I'll take the teams that are 1 through 25 and also teams that are going to be getting votes right here. So for example, if a team is ranked number one in both polls, they will be the number one overall seed. And if they were, let's say, number 23 in the AP, but number 25 in the coaches, I would take a weighted average and I would rank them number 24 overall on the seed list.
Okay, I think I had some audio problems. First of all, guys, is it sounding better?
That sounds a
Yeah.
million times better.
Thank you, thank you. For
Okay.
figure, things were not hooked up right. We're not going to start over though. We are going to go ahead though and pull up a blank bracket here, and this is what we're going to be revealing tonight. Greg, your thoughts on the teams we see so far?
That is, I mean, again, when you mold, and I've just been like spilling over metrics and numbers getting ready for this show. And that's about what I came up with.
Unfortunately, I can hear the puppets straight, so that's something we're just going to have to put up with.
I'm going to start by revealing the first 16 teams in order, 1 through 16. Then we're going to go seed line at the time until we get all the way to the end of it. We'll also reveal not only the top teams out that Stalika found, I threw in about a dozen more just so we could discuss them as well. And I'm going to throw it out to all of you guys to kind of discuss whether you agree or disagree with what the media and through them Stalika did for tonight. Just don't blame me for anything you don't like. But number one overall is the Purdue Boilermakers. Mr. Teitel, do you agree with that at this point?
Yeah, there's certainly other teams in the mix. So, as I'm sure you'll reveal shortly, but you got you got a first team returning All-American in Braden Smith. You got the nation's leading field goal maker last year in Trey Kaufman-Renn. You got a guy in Fletcher Lawyer who made almost 50% of his shots behind the arc in his team's wins last year. You got a transfer from South Dakota State and Oscar Clough who led the nation in PER last year, and a brutal schedule, which might cause them to come down. But on paper, at the start of November, I love it.
Yeah, not a whole lot of surprises here in the seed list. Anyone that's seen the polls is going to guess the seed list. They're ranked number one, and understandably so. I don't know how many of us are going to pick them to win it all, but I would imagine somebody would. But they're very, very good.
Yeah, and Matt, let me turn to you. Number two overall, also probably not surprised. It's Kelvin Sampson's Houston team.
Yeah, I mean that would be my personal pick to be number one preseason, but still, like Purdue, not a bad pick at all. But love what Houston's returning. Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp have a really good Tugler, really good recruiting class. I think guys are going to be ready to play. And I think with the experience of the other guys, I think this could be Kelvin Sampson's best team.
Right, and Stalika, we do see that they're going to be playing in the South region, which is in Houston. That is allowed this year, though, correct? They're not the host.
This is going to be permissible for a couple reasons. Number one, the regional is going to be played at the Toyota Center, which is not their home court. It's the Houston Rockets' home court. And number two, you can thank the Rice Owls for being the host institution as opposed to the Houston Cougars. So this is why they're allowed to be in the South region in this instance.
Which means if Rice was number 2 overall, they
Yes.
would not be going to the South region.
A very important note there. So if Rice earns the number 2 overall ranking, they cannot go to Houston.
The Texas Southern is number 2 overall. They can be in the region.
Yes, that's far more probable, albeit not very probable, than Rice doing it this year.
Uh, Griggs, number 3 overall. How about the defending national champions there?
Well, it's hard not to like them. They won it all last year. They have completely reloaded. I know that it's a different looking roster, but there's enough of it, plus a lot of the talent that they've added, plus the coaching staff that brought it together last year that's still there. It would have made sense. I wouldn't have been surprised had they been ranked number 1. I think they're that good.
Yeah, Tytel, are they that good? Could we have a back-to-back national champions here?
Good. I doubt it only because it's a very rare feat, even though UConn just did it recently. They certainly have the starting 5 on paper as good as anybody, but they lost a lot of guys to the draft, and I question their depth in the bench. So love the starting 5, which is why they deserve to be here in the preseason. I do not think they will repeat, to answer your question.
Do not think they're going to repeat. Salika, you put at number 4 overall the UConn Huskies going to Philadelphia, but then having to ship out west to San Jose for the regionals. How about the Huskies this year?
This is the team that had a down year last year getting into the second round, but it's probably a down year at the sense that they can't win the tournament every year. I mean, it's incredible what Danny Hurley has done to take a team that was in utter mediocrity in the American, but as soon as he's gone into the Big East, they've essentially taken Villanova's place as a perennial national title contender. And this year shouldn't be much different, although one of their freshmen is going to be out a few weeks because of injury.
Yeah, Matt, I see a lot of polls had St. John's winning the Big East over UConn, yet UConn came in here, at least based on some of these rankings, above them.
I think we selected from the right media then because UConn should be not only above St. John's, I think well above St. John's.
I want to welcome Joby Fortson to the show. Joby, we're just getting to the Mountain West section because we're on the one line.
You mean the one bid that they will receive? It will be a 12 seed.
Yeah, Joby, we've revealed the top 4 teams already. Overall, Purdue, Houston, Florida, UConn. Let me get your thoughts on it. What do you think?
I agree with
top
that.
4 teams. Okay.
I think that's a very sensible group. And I mean, Purdue, we can quibble. I know they're preseason AP number 1. They're a 1 seed by all projections, but to be the champ, you've got to beat the champ. And so I'm kind of, until you tell me, I'm high on this Florida team again. What was the last team, before UConn? What was the last team to repeat? Oh yeah, Florida. Yeah. And so I think they brought in the right guard play combined with the returning front line. The Gators would be my 1 seed entering the season, and it needs to be proven to me otherwise before I change that opinion. Nothing against Purdue, which is a very solid team, but it's more of a pro Florida pitch.
Well, it's also a media poll. So
yes, these were put together by Stalika, based on media, so we're going to blame Stalika for everything we don't like. But Matt, let me go back to you as we start off the 2 line, and you see over there in the East region, we just mentioned St. John's back-to-back with UConn in the rankings.
Yeah, because they might be in this preseason bracket. They're not going to be a 2 seed in the postseason bracket.
No, where are they going to be?
Like a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I don't love as much as I love UConn's roster construction. I don't love St. John's roster construction. No point guard, and man, like edge of 4 better be like to keep him in tempo with his prime guys in the basket because there's gonna be a lot of guys coming at him that being by the guards on defense.
You bring up an interesting point about I mean, obviously somebody's going to play the point, but it isn't quite as proven as what a lot of people this high in the rankings have. Yeah. The one thing about the Johnnies is I think that they're one of those teams that starts off going about 40 or 50 miles an hour and gets up to 100 miles an hour around Christmas or so. And so when you're talking about getting a one seed, you got to pretty much be going 100 miles an hour right out of the gate. But I really like this team. I like them defensively, especially last year. They pressure, they get into the passing lanes, they wear teams down, and they can win a lot of games, especially down the stretch. I kind of agree with you, Matt, that they're probably not this close to the one line, but I think they're playing at a very high level by the end of the year.
I'd say what you said about last year was very much true. The problem is they're all wearing different uniforms. Most of them in the pros, and Simeon Wiltshire somewhere else in college. So like all those guys that made it so tough to go against last year are not wearing the St. John's uniform this year, other than Ejiofor.
And especially in the case of a player like Bryce Hopkins, he was out for a good portion of last year. We'll see how healthy he is this year for St. John's.
Wasn't exactly Defensive Player of the Year even before that when he was healthy.
All right, Titel, number 6 overall, also on the 2 line.
Yeah.
There's the Duke Blue Devils, and who look pretty impressive just in preseason games. And I know we can't take much away from exhibitions, but what about Duke?
Just because the puppet doesn't take anything from exhibitions doesn't mean I don't, Chad. Duke looked great. Kim Boozer looks like the best player in the country, frankly. He was putting up video game numbers against power conference competition. They love that you put them in Greenville. So actually, is that Greenville, North or South Carolina? I forget.
South Carolina. There is no pod in North Carolina this year. It's the closest one they've got, though.
They don't love Greenville, but they will tolerate it because it's not North Carolina.
It's actually better for them that it's in South Carolina.
I think Shire and Krzyzewski before him have all the Chicago roots, so they are very happy to be in the Midwest region, even though Purdue is obviously a little closer.
I will remind our panel the last time Duke was in Greenville, South Carolina, some team coached by a guy named Angry Frank took them out in the second round.
It was incredible.
I don't think we'll be hearing from them this time.
Yeah, if Angry Frank takes them out in the second round this year, that would be very, very unexpected.
Well, we already put Bryce on the 1 line, so we might as well put UMass on the 7 line there or something, right?
Also, Mac, they could probably wind up in the 10.
Yeah.
Joby, number 7 overall. There it is in the South region. Yeah. How about Michigan?
I agree. They're a 2 seed right now. And, this is all preseason. I know we've already given the qualifiers, but yeah, this is where I would definitely have Michigan. I think they're a very solid team. I think they could challenge for that Big Ten title if Purdue does not produce at the level that we expect. The Wolverines, they are my number 2 team in the Big Ten. Makes sense that they are, given the Big Ten will be a pretty strong conference, that they are a 2 seed overall, a 2 seed in the big tournament.
2 seed in the tournament, and Griggs, the last of our 2 seeds. This is a surprise. I've BYU all the way up on the 2 line, just because I don't think we've ever talked about BYU this high.
It's been a minute. The last time that we have, there was, Jimmer Fredette was on the team. Brandon Davies was on that team. I mean, I think that it's been since then, to your point, Chad, that we've talked about BYU being ranked this high. They're pretty good, and I don't want to take that away. It's one of the toughest home courts. I think they're going to be able to build a hell of a resume with the conference they play in and the home advantage that they have and the opportunities that they have to win on the road. I don't think they're quite this good. I understand why they're ranked this high, just because I kind of understand at least how the writers generally vote. I like them. I think they're protected seed good. I don't know if they're 2 seed good, but I'm certain somebody on the panel probably disagrees with that. So
I like them up this high. I think they're going to be this good. And yes, you got all the freshman class of that, but you got some real good college players coming back. Their own guys, Richie Saunders, Dawson Baker, Kay Makeda. You got Rob Wright, I think might be the best guy in the portal. I love that kid at Baylor. And that he kind of pulled a little bit of an okey doke on Baylor after agreeing there and then saying, nope, we need more money after all, and end up at BYU. But I think he's going to be breaking Baylor's heart at BYU. I think they could be right up at the top of the Big 12 with Houston.
Just a quick note on BYU here also. They cannot play on Sundays. They do not play on Sundays. So when bracketing them, there is a pod in San Diego, which would be a little bit closer. I don't only think by about 50 or 60 miles closer than Portland is to BYU, but that is a Friday, Sunday pod. So BYU going to Portland a little bit further, but honestly, being a 2 seed, not that bad to go to Portland and then San Jose. They kind of got some I think that's where they'd like to be in terms of.
I want to follow
brackets.
up on something here because when I did my bracket, I initially had them in San Diego by mistake. I was going
Yes.
to Chad's beta version of the workbook that did not catch that error, but as they say in Office Space, we fixed the glitch.
Yes, we did fix the glitch. And thank you, John, for catching that for us. Who are we up to now? Titel. Our first of our 3 seeds over there in the West region as well. How about Kentucky?
You mean the team that lost to Georgetown the other day, Chad?
Yeah, well, maybe we should have Georgetown in the 3 line then, right?
You should not.
Okay.
Although they, I think, are actually in the conversation to like make this thing, which is ridiculous, but that's a separate show. No, I think that the Wildcats will be fine. They were missing 2 of their hopeful starters, Jaden Quaintance and Jalan Lowe. So when healthy, I think they are a 3 seed caliber team. I certainly wouldn't panic despite losing to the Hoyas at home because when they're healthy, I think they'll be hitting on all cylinders. So I believe in Mark Pope. I think this is good.
And I think Mark Pope actually said after the game, basically, we weren't even trying in this game. I mean,
did you watch any of it? They weren't.
I mean, he basically said, yeah, we had no intention to go out 100%. We're going to save that for the regular season games because it's exhibition basketball. So yeah. I don't think you can read much into that loss by Kentucky. I think you can read something into the win by Georgetown, just the fact that they did find a way to win the game. Maybe you are right, Titel. Maybe we'll be discussing them before the end of the show. Joby, let's swing back to you. Number 10 overall, Texas Tech.
No, I love this team. I mean, this is, the question is when you get to some of these big conferences with multiple bids, like the Big 12, like the SEC, where will the level of cannibalization happen that hurts records, thus hurts the ability to become a protected seed, not necessarily a bid? I think Texas Tech does float above that level. As a matter of fact, I think they're better than BYU, plain and simple. I think BYU is living off recruiting rankings and people staring at those and ranking them that high for that reason. Not saying BYU is not a tournament team, but they're not a 2 seed. Texas Tech might be a 2 seed. They've got a solid roster here, and I'm a big Red Raiders fan for this season.
Yeah, I personally look at the 10 teams we've put in so far, and I could see 9 out of 10 of them in the Final Four. BYU is a team I don't see making the Final Four from this group. So I do agree with you. I like this Tech team better than BYU.
Those rankings are eerily similar to what their respective football teams are doing right now.
And game day is in Lubbock this week for a great matchup between BYU and Texas Tech.
Yeah,
8 versus 9.
Pull up that schedule, Chad.
Texas Tech?
Yes.
Okay, give me a second here.
They're usually, I don't know their schedule by memory, but their out of conference is usually 1 team. We'll see.
Well,
but
just following up on what Chad is saying, game day in town for Sam Houston this week. Texas Tech. It's.
That is a pretty bad schedule. I mean, you got Arkansas. Duke. You got Arkansas.
You got the Purdue game potentially on November 21st.
Yeah. Illinois.
Wake Forest, which is not a gimme. Come on.
And if Purdue beats Memphis, come on. They could play the 3rd place game of that event.
You got 2 NIT teams that could pull the upset and prove they're NCAA worthy. Come on.
Come on. But you got Arkansas and you got Duke as you get into December. Those are a couple of pretty good games.
Still. And at Illinois, so I'll take it back because at Illinois is a really good one too. So.
Yeah. Let's see here. Stalika, number 11 overall. How about the Louisville Cardinals?
Wow.
Yeah, well, another thing is interesting because of the distances involved. You would think Kentucky would have the original pecking order, but Louisville being about 60 miles to the west of Kentucky, they'll get geographical preference to St. Louis, whereas Kentucky gets geographical preference to Greenville, South Carolina. But as far as a product that Louisville is going to be put on the court, it figures to be an even more explosive offensive lineup that Pat Kelsey is putting together this year.
Chad, you might have addressed this. Why did you send Kentucky to San Jose?
Let's ask that question, Mr. Stalika. We're actually looking at his bracket here, but Kentucky going out west. I believe it had to do with teams in the same conference, Stalika, or region balance, or one of the like.
It's going to be mainly region balance right here.
Okay. Basically, the top 4 seeds in each region have to be generally balanced. If you basically add up their overall seed numbers, so like 2 plus 11 plus 7 plus whatever the 4 seed is there in the South, for example, that's got to be roughly equivalent to the same 4 numbers in the Midwest, the East, and the West.
By roughly, you mean 5.
Within 4 or 5, yes.
Yeah.
The West is already pretty soft with the weakest number 1 and the weakest number 2 in there at this point in time.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, before we move on this Louisville team, how about the job that Pat Kelsey has done so far here?
Man, that's one. He inherited a program that was not in good shape, and they comfortably made the tournament last year. Caught a little bit of a tough break facing a Creighton team. They were probably actually, I think, a little underseeded last year, and but I don't think they'll have to worry about that. They're going to be, I think, at least a 3 seed this year, if not maybe even a lot higher.
In great, he inherited a program that was an overflowing outhouse that was also on fire. I mean, he has gotten that place turned around.
Titel, our last of our 3 seeds. How about heading out west to a good Pac-12, a Big Ten school, UCLA?
They're looking good. Mick Cronin brings in Donovan Dent as one of the highlights of the transfer portal to run the points. They did lose some big guys like Ade Mara to the portal, but they still bring back some others. So I think they'll be fine. I'm sure they'll love being in San Diego. I think that this is a good pick for them. And I'm interested to see if somebody picks them to be in our Final Four. I do not, but I think that they have enough pieces and a solid coach that I'm interested to see if somebody gives them the go.
All right. Joby, let's start off the 4 line. How about their Pac-12 mates there, Arizona? I'm sorry, a Big 12 team.
You should have waited on Titel for a moment. Yes, what a fun. If UCLA were to meet up with Arizona eventually, I don't think in this bracket they would make it because I've already expressed my admiration for Florida. But Arizona is once again. Arizona's ranked 17th. It's even low for what I would think, their year in, year out, production is. Arizona will once again challenge for the Big 12 title. They are, they're as usual, strong talent, deep. I'll defer to Dorman and Titel on the specifics and strategy, but the fact of the matter is, Wildcats certainly are worthy of a protected seed.
And by the way, the first 4 teams, as long as if they're within the protected seeds, the first 4 teams from a conference have to go to 4 different regions. That's why Arizona could not get that West spot and had to go because BYU, being a Big 12 team, was already in there from the West. And Houston and Texas Tech already claimed the South and the Midwest. So this is the only place Arizona could go, Stalika, if I'm correct.
Right, but the other trade-off is because BYU can't be in San Diego due to it being a Friday, Sunday. At least Arizona gets to be in a somewhat natural hosting position here, getting to make the shorter distance to San Diego as opposed to having to go north to Portland.
Okay. Matt, after Arizona, how about John Calipari's Arkansas team here, getting a protected seed?
Not quite buying that one, but they push it. I'm guessing they have the natural talent for it, but they had the talent for it last year and we're on the 10 line. So I think it'd be a little better than that this year, but something between 4 and 10, like a 6, 7, is more of where I kind of view them personally.
Really? Does somebody want to speak up in favor of this Arkansas team?
No,
I
Arkansas is really good.
Yeah,
Like
I think they're really good. I had them in the final. They were a Final Four pick of mine last year, and I stuck with them even when they were a 10 seed, and they were playing really well. Although it took them a while to get to that level, I think they finally got there, and they were playing well in the NCAA tournament. I think they're really good, Matt. I think that's about right.
I think Calipari's going to bring the defense this year.
Mhm.
I
I worry
really
about
do.
the
I
shooting.
think
Like,
they're
listen,
ready
they'll
to
be
go. They know the system. I think they now the SEC is just brutal like last year. It's a little down from last year when it was the best conference in the history of college basketball, but it's still really good. And Arkansas is on the top half of that. They will collect wins out the wazoo. Once again, avoid the cannibalization, and Arkansas will have the resume that looks very protected seed level.
And hopefully they also avoid a couple season-ending injuries like they had last year.
Yes.
It wasn't that the team just got bored in January and didn't know what to do. They were legitimately trying to refigure their chemistry. And once they got to about early to mid-February, they did figure that out.
Titel, number 15 overall. We're going to Illinois there in the West region.
Interesting. I've seen them all over the polls. Some have them in their top 10. Some don't, like we don't. I'm a little surprised that they have to move out of the Midwest region because I'm sure they'd love to play in Chicago. Are they allowed to? Do we know?
The
Yeah,
problem is that Purdue being there, they are our fourth Big Ten team in. So the West region is the only region open with UCLA and Michigan and Purdue and the other three regions already.
Just checking. That's a great example, I think, of Hawaii. As important it is for the team to be good, and we talk about like matchups matter and everything, which they all do. Like those seeding and bracket intricacies can really derail somebody's chances of going far. Like I think this one did.
And it's kind of funny if they were just two spots lower on our seed list and on the 5 line, they could have gone to the Midwest region. Would not
Yeah,
have
they
been a
could.
problem. Now, I don't think they're going to complain about going to Buffalo, though. That's not that far for them. And from the first route sites, it's not like they have to go to Portland and San Jose or something a little more ridiculous.
The next team will play Portland.
Somebody's got to go to Portland, though. Was one of the teams to go to Portland? Joby, it is Alabama, the Tide.
Yeah. I'm less on the Alabama bandwagon than years past. Like I said, I would say Arkansas is a full seed line better, to put in perspective than Alabama. But Alabama is certainly, I have them as a 4-5. I have them more of as a 5 than a 4, but that's getting nitpicky. And hey, Alabama gets to go to Portland and probably play some 5 seed that will, you know, take it to them, unfortunately. But Nate Oates still will produce. I just don't think at the same levels we have seen, especially last year, where and you can see it from this breakdown. The SEC will not have 5 teams in the top 2 seed lines this year, or whatever it was. So I think this makes at least somewhat sense. But maybe someone from the 5 line I might replace with Alabama. But it's that this is about where they should be.
Now, truth be told, I'm a little surprised that we only have 4 SEC teams in the top 16. Last year, I think we actually had to juggle 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken, in the top 16.
Well, that's what I was saying. The top 1, 2 seeds. We were dealing with everyone from Auburn, Tennessee to Alabama. I mean, it was Florida. It was a whole host of SEC teams at the very top, and we're not going to see that this year. Though that's not like I said, that's a crack on the SEC for not being repeating as the best conference ever.
The only thing we try to avoid in a case like that would be make sure you don't have like 1 and a 5 in the same region.
Yeah, Griggs is a little interesting here. We've got 4 SEC teams, 4 Big 12 teams, 4 Big 10 teams, and 2 each from the ACC and the Big East here. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the Big 12, SEC, Big 10 really just showing the power here in this top 16 seeds.
Yes. Let's I mean, I'm not disputing that. I mean, the whole time I've been saying that I think these teams are good. I think these teams are good, but not to repeat, let's just keep in mind what this is. It's a preseason poll. There's
Mhm.
somebody on the screen right now that will miss the tournament. We don't know who it is, but one of these teams is going to miss it entirely. It happens every year.
Yep.
Oh, it's Houston because we're putting Rice in instead of them. Come on.
Yeah, we're putting Rice in. But at the end of the year, there's generally 7 to 8 teams that were ranked in the preseason that don't finish in the poll, and about 5 or 6 that don't get in at all. That's a typical year. So
Oh, let's take a look. We're now. I'll start going one full seed line at a time. Matt, let me start with you here on our 5 seeds. There's 4 of them going to show up on the screen here. We've got Iowa State, Kansas, Tennessee, and Gonzaga.
I like it. I like Iowa State. Actually, I think I might have Iowa State up in the protected seeds. I think Kansas is gonna be a little better this year. Darren Peterson is the real deal. Like
Mhm.
that kid, like smart basketball people are talking about him as a potential player of the year. So like, yeah, that I've got a different freshman in that as we'll discuss at the end of the show, but I think he'll be right up there. Tennessee's solid. I actually the one is Gonzaga is weirdly enough. I normally am one of the big Gonzaga fans on this panel. I don't love the makeup of that team this year and I think there could be a couple seed lines lower.
Tytel, what about that? The Zags are our first non-power conference team to show up here in the field.
It's a shame they have to travel across the country to Buffalo, but I get it. If they were higher, they'd be better. I think that it would be a fascinating matchup with Illinois because the Illini have the big men inside, the Avicic brothers, while Gonzaga has their own big men in Braden Huff and Graham Ike. So nice battle of strength on strength. I don't know how the Zags have done traditionally going across the country. I think they're usually in the past have been good enough that they stay local, but I think it would be certainly tough. And luckily, they have a brutal schedule, so they'll be very battle tested by the time they get that far.
Yeah, I mean, if they are one seed line higher, they clearly get that. Just number 16 overall. It's easy to put them in Portland. They've tended to be a protected seed, and tends to be that those West region pods are the hardest ones to fill also. So that's
yeah,
why they don't tend to travel very much.
yeah.
Griggs?
Well, I was going to say in doing this because I do a bracket of every week usually, and then when Titel starts putting his seed list out bracketing it, it seems like every year there's one of the locations that makes no geographic sense for any of the protected seeds, and it's usually a Western-based one. Just having done this for so long, and so all of you would agree with that because you've
Oh, yeah.
all done these.
And I had Gonzaga number 20 overall, so this is why you're not going to see him in Portland, even as a
Yeah.
5 seed.
Mhm. Yeah. What about Joby? What about like a team like Tennessee? I think it's kind of a team that everyone is kind of almost overlooking this going into this season.
I agree. I think Tennessee is still they every year they seem to have that great transfer that comes in scoring. They got it again this year, and you know, once again, all right, where is that cannibalization going to happen? I have the Vols ahead of Alabama, as you heard from my prior discussion, but it's not like I have Tennessee at the level of like I'd still have them behind Arkansas, for instance, and definitely Florida and Kentucky. So when you're ranking SEC teams, so yeah, I'd like to see him on the 4 line, but it's not once again 4 or 5. Maybe it's better, maybe it's better for them to be on the 5 as long as they aren't placed in our situation in San Diego, where Arizona is going to have much more of an advantage as a home team and a very solid squad on top.
It's like one quick question here. You had Iowa State and Kansas both in this line. I don't know which was ranked ahead of each other, but we're talking Kansas as the 5th or 6th best Big 12 team, which is almost mind-boggling.
That's what they were
I
last year.
think we had Kansas number 6 in the Big 12 if you go by the preseason poll, which speaks more to the depth of that conference this year.
Yeah, it does. Griggs, our 6 seeds: Michigan State, Auburn, Creighton, and Wisconsin.
Wow. I know that this is going to shock you all because I've always been super critical of Creighton, but this year I really like them. I think this might be a little low. I think they're going to outperform their preseason ranking. I would say the same about Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's one of those teams that always gets me in trouble because I always say that they're going to outperform where they are in the preseason, and they usually do, but not always. But I can't help it. I look at them. I love how they play. I love their coaching. I just think this is a really, really good team that could again end up as a protected seed.
Titel, Auburn, a lot of question marks here with Stephen Pearl taking over. I know you don't like first-year head coaches either.
Don't I? Yes. I mean, it's still a Pearl, so partial credit, but yes, I think it's going to be an uphill battle just because when you lose a player of Janai Broom's talent, you cannot replace him. He was the man. Louisville also had a great year last year, so I think this will be a very tough game for Auburn, even though they're going to be certainly get battle tested in the SEC. But this sounds about right. I think that they're top 25 good, which is what a 6 seed is.
Yep, just kind of at the edge of the top 25 here, and Matt, we also got Michigan State in there, kind of exactly where Tom Izzo wants to be, I would think, right?
Yeah, I think this is actually pretty similar to where they'll be in March, and I think this is a bracket I'd probably pick them over Texas Tech.
Joby, let me run to you for our 7 line here, where we've got our Mountain West team, San Diego State, along with 2 ACC teams, NC State, North Carolina, and a Pac-12 team, a Big Ten team in Oregon.
By the way, my knee jerk is when you look between the 5 and 6 seeds, you can see a drop off. Like you can see it in my mind. There is a significant drop off. Whereas between the 6 and 7, you don't see that drop off. I could see particularly NC State, if they can put the new pieces together, those are some great pieces that could really surprise. I know they're a little bit of a flavor of the month sort of thing, maybe, but you know what? They remind me a lot of St. John's last year. There's a lot of similarities. North Carolina, they have North Carolina on the jersey, so I guess that's why they're there.
I think you're about right. I would have had about 3 seed lines lower.
I think
I'm
North
not
Carolina
big
is going
on the
to
Tar
be
Heels
in
at
the
all.
tournament, but I don't love them. Oregon, very solid team. Seven's probably right. San Diego State, that's interesting. That they will get. I don't know what to say about San Diego State. That's ridiculous.
I know.
I mean, it's and the Mountain West just, and I know you hear me over and over and over and over say this, but I really mean it this year. It's not shtick. It's a 1-bid league unless San Diego State gets upset in the tournament. They are an at-large worthy team, but that's it. And because
I think they're pretty good this year, actually.
Because of that, San Diego State will not have a resume that will jump out. But because the Mountain West has all these quirky away games like at Wyoming, I don't know if San Diego State's going to be able to pile a resume that will impress at the end of the day. I really don't. They better win that, win in that tournament. You
got Michigan, you got Oregon, you got Arizona.
This year, Colorado State's down, New Mexico's down. Just through the traditional borderline at large teams of the Mountain West, they're all worse than they were last year. Significantly.
I think there's one other that's pretty good.
Utah State?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
But I think Boise's not going to be far off what they were last year.
Yeah, I think Boise's going to end up in Dayton or around there. Like they can't seem to get inside of Dayton. But
and for San Diego State, as I think they go through this tournament, go through this conference with a very strong record, at the top, they're going to get some losses that just don't sit well. Like I said, January 14th, watch it. And not because Wyoming's some world beater, but because when people go, especially from San Diego, go to Wyoming, it can be tough.
Yeah, it is. Wyoming's pretty bad.
And it'll look like a really bad loss.
And don't forget, you've got Grand Canyon in the conference now, too, and that's another tough road test.
Grand Canyon, in all honesty, is a value add.
Yeah, I agree.
In a big way. That's a big value add. They're Grand Canyon will fight in that NIT to Dayton range. And so at the end of the day.
Titel, let's take a look at the 8 seeds here. where we've got Ohio State, Texas, USC, and Vanderbilt.
Fascinating. Purdue, Ohio State, obviously a conference game. Houston,
Permissible.
Texas, I believe that's an old Southwest Conference game, if somebody can confirm.
Old
It
Southwest
is.
and an old Big 12 game as well, correct?
Ah,
Yeah,
I forgot,
and
yes.
that would be awesome. Oh my God, shut it down.
Florida, USC, a great football game. Not sure if, well, not this year, but in the past. Not sure if I want to see it on the basketball court. But no, this looks pretty neat. I think a Houston, Texas game, it's a shame it wouldn't be in the state of Texas. Not that Oklahoma City's that far away, but I think they would have a lot of fan interest in heading north to Oklahoma for that one.
There's been a lot of, not to get too much off of this, but there's been a lot of push for Texas and Houston to play. The one year that they overlapped in the Big 12, the two games were phenomenal. They were some of the most intense, most exciting regular season games. Yeah, and of course, because they were so big and so exciting, the two have not resumed the series.
I do have a question though. So we're saying Houston's going to be a 2 seed in the NIT? Because Texas is not a tournament team. They're not. I mean, they're flat out not. They weren't last year. Yeah. They
weren't.
Boat raced when they got a bid. North Carolina was with Bubba Cunningham gifting them a bid, was more deserving than Texas last year. I mean, and Texas has not drastically improved. This is a team that will finish very low in a less exceptional SEC this year. I've been bragging on a lot of SEC teams in the tonight, and deservedly so, with your Tennessees and your Arkansas and your Floridas. Texas ain't one of them. They're going 0-2 again, or 0-1, depending on how many times they play against that group of teams that we have been praising tonight.
Texas, question for this line, Matt. USC, I'm not sold that they're necessarily a tournament team either.
I was surprised because I had to do some research for college hoops, well, besides for our purposes, for some other purposes in that. And I looked over USC's roster, and it's okay. I was shocked they were in the 20s of the metrics, and that were like these other teams. Like I like Ohio State on this line. Actually, I think Vanderbilt's could be higher than a 8, but
yeah,
but I think
agree,
SC.
I agree.
SC, I think maybe this is where they belong, but like I could see them being indicted. Like I didn't love that roster. Like I haven't loved. I think the game is slightly past Musselman by. Like it's one of those that he beat everyone on the transfer portal, but he plays kind of an archaic style of offense. They don't take a ton of threes and that. And I still don't love that roster. And I think it get chewed up and spit out in the Big Ten a little bit. Like it'd be better if they were still in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Now, by interest, is this what Joby would call experts out in the desert?
Yeah.
Well, Texas is not. The experts in the desert do not think Texas is worthy. They do think Vanderbilt's worthy, but they would have, if you ranked them purely by that metric, Texas is not in this field. And I agree with those people because they actually have money going for it.
Stalika, let's take a look at the 9 line, which is potential first-round matchups even here, where we've got Missouri, Kansas State, Ole Miss, and Baylor. Your thoughts on these 4 teams, which I'll just note, I think I liked it better than our 8 line, but go ahead.
Too. That's my thought.
I can't imagine Buckeye fans are going to be terribly happy to see Missouri in a place like this. Considering how hit and miss the Buckeyes have been just getting into the NCAA tournament, they probably won't be wailing too loudly. Now, you look at a matchup like Houston and Kansas State in the second round. Normally, we would not be seeing this in a conference like the Big 12, but since there's only going to be like 2 or 3 teams they play twice a year, same with Florida and Ole Miss, this is why you're going to see matchups like this potentially as early as the second round.
Yeah, Greg, so are these the right 4 teams on this 9 line, or is there anybody here that you think just doesn't belong?
I can say decent things about all of them. Baylor has shown that they've been able to reload. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little bit better than this. Ole Miss lost something, but lost some pieces, but they added it. Yeah, I think they are. I kind of like these teams more than the 8 line. I'm with you on that.
All right, well, let's take a look at our 10 line here at Titel. We've got Virginia. I'll get to Joby here in a second on them. Washington, Iowa, and St. Mary's.
Oh, good on Drake getting in as a 10 seed.
I've seen a lot of people high on the Huskies. I'm not buying it just yet, only because they did not impress me last year. I know they brought in like half of the USC backcourt from last year, so like jury's out. But I'm not totally there just yet. And then they get the Big Ten matchup with Michigan if they get past the Wolfpack. Oregon St. Mary's a nice West Coast game on the West Coast with the winner to face BYU would be fun. And I'll leave Joby for the Midwest region.
Yeah, Joby, how about your Who's here? Are they in the dance this year?
I do think they're in the dance, but it could go one of two ways. The talent is Sweet 16 good. I mean, Virginia paid the third most in NIL money out there. I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason why. We talk about, well, BYU's return. Well, BYU lost their point guard to Virginia. And so, but Virginia has to do a whole new style. I mean, rarely has a team gone from one extreme to another so dramatically. The Bennett to Odom is just, and they could be a shock to the system. I mean, we'll see. In exhibitions, Virginia lost to Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt's there, and they beat Villanova, who's not here yet.
Joby, that game doesn't count. Not only was it an exhibition game, they played quarters.
That is true. That is true. But but Virginia has the pieces. I mean, they have guys who chose Virginia over the NBA. That are on this roster. It's like, and three players who are all conference before coming and won the WCC's conference player of the year. Not a small conference, WCC's. And so it's a really talented team when you really break it down, but how do you put the pieces together? And it's the same thing for the other ACC teams that also spent heavily in the portal, NC State, Louisville. These teams, it's a boom or bust. Either they're making the tournament and we're talking, Sweet 16 or better, or they're part of Griggs's example of teams that we have listed here that will not be there in March.
Matt, real quick, this Iowa team, Griggs called them the Drake team because they have most of Drake's rosters from last year. Your thoughts on if they belong?
Man, this is a tough call. It's like, so I look at the little research and man, I feel like boom or bust. Either this is going to work great in the Big Ten and they're going to be like a 5 or 6 seed, or it falls apart. I somehow don't think they're going to be on the 10 line, because it's like that's kind of like the in-between outcome. And then I think this is going to be an extreme either, hey, and that this is a great system, it works wherever. Iowa's like 4th or 5th in the Big Ten and they're fighting for a protected seat, or hey, this is a fish out of water, it don't work. They're like 14 and 18, it might not even make the Big Ten. So if you had to make the Big Ten tournament like last year, they might not have been that high, made it. So I think it's going to go extremely one way or the other, not fall in the middle, which this kind of is.
I agree, Matt, and I'm willing to bet on the former. I think I've seen this play out in other situations, and it seems to go pretty well usually. And so I think
I sort of lean that way, although, like I said,
I think Iowa's could easily be second weekend team or second week team.
They almost were last year.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the 11 line, and if we did things right, we're only going to see one team pop up here. Stalika, VCU, our first A10 team, in you had them above the cut line for the first 4, correct?
That's correct. And then this team would have been on the S curve above the first 4 based on the polling between the AP and the coaches poll.
Yeah, and so theoretically, if somebody stole the A10 bid at the conference tournament, at least at this point, it looks like VCU is a potential at-large candidate.
Yeah, they would still be safe.
Although Joey's shaking his head on them. But let's go ahead and go to our first 4 now. And I'm going to start with our top 2 first 4 teams. This will be in the South region. Auburn's opponent, if I got this right, be the winner of a game. And as always, Griggs, Boise State in the first 4 playing Villanova.
Yeah. They're, oh man. I guess somebody voted for Villanova in one of the media polls. I do not see that at all. I know Boise has Joby pulling his hair out, but I think that Boise is at least somewhat bubblish, albeit arguably on the outside of it. I don't think Villanova can see the bubble with a telescope.
Titel, what do you think about Villanova? You've got some Philly ties. Do you think they could contend for a bid this year?
Yes, they could contend. New coach, lost the best scorer in school history in Eric Dixon, so really starting over. Uphill battle, and they're not going to be near the top of the Big East, I don't think, as we've seen many other Big East teams already. No, I think they could contend. I don't think they're going to finish with a losing record or anything.
Is Marquette in?
We have not seen Marquette yet. There's only
And
two
Nova
spots left.
That is remarkable.
We're going to blame Salika for this, and Matt, you can continue to blame Salika as we see our last two at-large teams, and we do not see Marquette. We see Mississippi State and Cincinnati.
I have a broken window in my place because of this. Here.
Well, yeah, no, this is why I don't.
All right.
Marquette is not in either the media poll, which I don't think Marquette should be a preseason top 25 team, but this is where kind of this mythology and that works. Although Marquette also in Ken Pom and T rank is right on the bubble or probably just on the wrong side of it. I think Marquette's could be better than this, but like that's one of those like I'm just my knowledge and like Shaka's history, I think, and that I think Marquette's could be sneaky good, but I can see why the way we do it, Marquette's not in this.
Right. And Stalika, I know you built this. Is it just by the time you get this low in the media polls, you're selecting teams that got 2 or 3 votes, and it could have just been one diddle brain from Philadelphia or Cincinnati. I just think that that's almost hilarious that somebody would at this point pick either one of those.
Well, Chad will get to this in a little bit, but there weren't that many options this year because only so many teams were getting votes in the AP poll. I only had like 3 other teams that received a single vote that didn't even make the cut.
Yeah.
No, but before we jump to that, Mississippi State, Joby, are they a tournament team?
Yes.
Okay.
And you might remember from my, I'm kind of high on Mississippi State, probably compared to the average person. I like what they've done, bringing in folks. They're going to have the SEC's leading scorer on their team. They have an inside-outside combo situation that I like. Mississippi State is a tournament team. I think they'll be above the first 4 if we're just doing flat-out predictions. So I'm on the Mississippi State. There are teams that are not here that we'll all discuss and get to that should be in, especially when we talk about Cincinnati and Villanova. But Mississippi State is not one of those that should be removed.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the top 4 teams out before we go on to the rest of the field. The top 3 of the 3 that Salika mentioned were the only 3 that got any votes in the media polls. The 4th one I threw in there based on the fact that they needed to be on the list, and that's Marquette that I added in there. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Indiana, the other 3. Griggs, is there any cases that, other than Marquette, which you already discussed, the other 3, did they belong up in the field?
I could make I don't think so. I do like Marquette, but I could make a stronger case if I had to, I think, for all 3 of them over Villanova or Cincinnati.
Tell your thoughts on those 4 teams.
We do it how we do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It looks fine. I could quibble. I mean, Puppet obviously would have them all in over Villanova, which you could make the argument for, but the Sooners' schedule is brutal. They have 9 SEC home games. Each of the 9 made the tournament last March. So, I'm not saying they're going to go 0-9, and they did bring in guys like Nigel Pack and Tay Davis and Xavier Brown, but tough sledding in the SEC.
Not much non-conference, though, other than a Marquette game against a team on the same line here. Playing game. There we go. I also threw another 10 teams up here. I'll just reveal them real quick that these are teams that, based on preseason J&G polls up there on the website, also some other preseason metrics that were kind of close. Texas A&M, Clemson, Georgia, New Mexico, Utah State, SMU, West Virginia, Dayton, Northwestern, Providence. Greg, you could put all these teams in over Villanova as well, correct?
Yeah. I do like this Texas A. Well, when I say I like them, I'm intrigued by Texas
By
A&M
Bucky
this year.
Ball. Yeah.
Bucky Ball, and when
Yes.
when, when Texas A&M plays Arkansas, you can score 120 points and lose by 15 in that game.
It's going to be fun watching that.
Oh my God, I'm
Matt,
already yeah.
Matt, do you want to make a case for any of these teams to be in the field also?
Yeah, I like Utah State a lot in that I think they'll be I think
As
they'll be
is
the
Joby.
second. Yeah, that's what I say. I only had two Mod West teams in the preview, Joby, but Utah State, I think they're in, and I think they'll be in above the first four. I think like something like a 9-10 seed.
Stalika, your thoughts on any of these teams, or maybe anybody else that's not even on the screen that should be in consideration here?
Well, we also talk about Texas A&M since they moved on from Uncle Buzz. Notice that the Terrapins have not been mentioned here, nor have they been mentioned in the top teams out right here. And there's also another conference that could potentially be relegated down to under the radar this year. Where is the American?
Yeah.
I'll have to throw in
Utah's not
here
listed.
the
Yeah.
last team on the 11 line. Let me pull them up here. There they are. That is our lone American team. Actually, Griggs coming in below the first four. That's Memphis.
I think they're a little better than that, but not receiving any votes. Another team that I think is in very, very safely that I don't think is on any votes was St. Mary's.
They're there on the 10 line.
Oh, they're there on the 10 line. Like I said, St. Mary's, they're on the 10 line.
Oops, and now I just pulled up their schedule. Didn't mean to do that.
And the thing is, if you've watched our West Coast Conference preview, it's not even unanimous among our panel that St. Mary's would finish second this year.
Yeah, San Francisco, another really good team that and the media, the preseason poll always leans heavily towards the brand names and the power conferences. So it's kind of hard to. This is what it is, and it's about what you would expect. The final bracket isn't going to look anything like this. It never does. But I think Memphis is a little bit better than that. Not by much, but I do think that they're inside the first four.
I'm actually intrigued by Furman. I know that sounds crazy, maybe, but I
Like
actually
bubble? You think Furman can get inside
as
the
in they
bubble?
might be able to put together. I don't know their out of conference schedule to be able to get scouts to do it, but I think they are good enough as far as your under the radar teams. I think they're going to. The SoCon is a strong under the radar league, and I think they can do extremely well in that. And unfortunately, I'm looking there. They don't have the ability to bring home big wins that might thus probably will prevent them from an at large. But they are at large talent wise.
Well, they've got a they've got a tough one tomorrow right out of the gate. That
Yeah,
Furman High Point game is,
Yeah, High
is a
Point's
very good game.
High Point's going to compete for the Big South title again. Yes.
Yeah, and
But they've lost. High Point did lose. They were more of a victim than many on the transfer portal outbound. And so
That's
High Point
yeah.
might have a little trouble replicating last year's success.
I'm a little High Point Liberty. There's a smattering of under the radar schools that have adapted about as well as an under the radar school can to the
They can
transfer portal NIL. High Point is one of them. They are willing to spend money. You're right, Joby. They lost a lot. They lost their coach, but they also brought in some good players too. I don't think they're going to have any trouble at all in the Big South. I think that game tomorrow is really good. Talk a little more about Furman because they're not. I like them too, but most people would say that Chattanooga is the team in the SoCon this year. I'm a little surprised that you like Furman. I mean, I'm just intrigued by that pick to watch them as a team that could cross the bubble.
They just seem to me to be, they're returning, they were not picked apart by the portal as much as the average, you could say. And, they were coming on strong at the end of last year. And I look at teams from your SoCons of the world. And Chattanooga obviously brought it home at the end of the day last year out of the SoCon. I think Time for a change, and Furman's, I think, will step up. And if they not run they're not going to go 6. I don't know if it's 16 or 18 game
18.
schedule in there.
Well,
But if it's 18,
it's
they're not going to
18, but
18
the
and 0. But
Citadel's
I
in
think
there, so it's kind
15
of
and
like 16.
3, 15 and 3 or so in the SoCon,
Yeah.
Is is extremely doable for them. And boy, don't I pray that I am not a 6 if they're an 11, or a 5 if they're a 12, because they scream upset, man. Because
they do have 6 guys returning that played significant minutes last year, bringing a Clemson transfer, Asa Thomas, who had been a top recruit, injury riddled. So there's some talent there, but
there definitely is. Yeah.
Let's go. Sorry to make this a under the radar discussion per se, but I think that when we're talking, I think this could really turn into a fun team to watch.
Okay. Now that we've turned into the SoCon preview show, let's go and take a quick look at the under the radar schools. The 12 line, we'll go a little quicker here, where we've got McNeese as Iowa State's opponent, Liberty, who we just mentioned, would get Kansas, Akron gets Gonzaga, and Yale.
That's a good Yale team. Yeah, that's a very good Yale team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even see the SoCon champion there yet. Let's look if they show up on the 13 line.
They'll be at 12.
And we do have Chattanooga there taking on Arkansas. That is the SoCon pick, despite Joby's talk about Furman.
Also, they're the media day favorites, but I'm with Joby. I picked Furman. So,
I think we got 3 other very dangerous teams here on the line, and Bradley, High Point, and UC Irvine as well.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, that Irvine team's good. Not as good as they were last year, but God, they're good.
And they have that experience now.
On the
running through the NIT. So that was...
On the 14 line, you got Little Rock, St. Thomas. Welcome the Tommies.
Yeah, look at the Tommies all the way up there. How about Towson? Yeah, Pat Scary, the preseason favorite out of the CAA.
Yep. Actually, I want to go back to Bradley for a moment. Now, the Missouri Valley, they did not release a preseason poll. So in this case, I went by the team that had the highest Ken Palm rating. So this is why we're seeing Bradley over a team potentially like Belmont or even a Northern Iowa, for example. I forget who Grock would have had, since I know
Illinois State.
That's who the puppet was consulting for a couple.
Me and Grock had it out.
Real quick, James Madison there against Kentucky. That would be the last of the 14 seeds. Our 15 line, Duke would be going up against Navy. California Baptist in against Michigan. Vermont against St. John's, despite a very weak exhibition season for Vermont with a non-D1 loss and almost 2 non-D1 losses. And Montana going out to Portland to complete that all-West pod there. How about that little traditional West pod in the West region? Last but not least, the 16 line. Purdue gets Milwaukee. Houston gets the winner of a Quinnipiac-Norfolk State game, a Norfolk State team that might be a little underrated here, actually. Queens against Florida. And UConn gets the winner of a Bethune-Cookman LIU game. LIU, another team out of the Northeast Conference that could be playing with the 15 line, in my opinion.
I think so, too. I think they just blow through the NEC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see them getting above the 16.
All right, so I'm just going to run through for you. First of all, any thoughts that you have on the entirety of the bracket now that we see it? Matt, first of all, you.
That's, I think, fairly solid. Although there's going to be teams that we don't expect they're going to outright miss it, or like St. John's is going to take a plummet down the bracket from their perch currently, and that so these are not going to be what you see in March. And that, but I think there's some teams. I would say I think my guys Marquette will be in the field. I think Utah State will be in the field. I actually think we didn't have them listed. The San Francisco Dons will be in this field, and I think they're wearing white in the first round.
Wow.
That's bold.
Yeah.
Bold pick there by Matt. Titel, when we look at teams that are not on the board anywhere at all, we talked a little Georgetown. They're not on the board.
Not yet, but it's early November, and they face another top team out, Clemson, in somebody's birthday in a couple weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Quick fun fact about each region, starting on the left in the Midwest. So Texas Tech, you did not do them a lot of favors. They get Tom Izzo, perhaps in the second round, who's made 8 Final Fours. Then Duke, who made the Final Four last year. Then Purdue, who made the title game 2 years ago. In the South, Bill Self gets a rematch with Arkansas. in the first round game last year against Patino. And then he gets Houston in Houston, so that could be very fun. My Wildcats, they get Tennessee, back-to-back Elite Eights. Then they have to fly across the country to Washington, D.C. Hooray! To face the defending champs, Florida, who will also be a rematch of tomorrow's season opener, and possibly a Hall of Famer in Patino, which would be a rematch of Arizona's only title in 1997 when they beat Kentucky in overtime. And then in the West, Kentucky would get Wisconsin in the second round, a rematch of both the 2014 and 2015 Final Fours, and then BYU in the Mark Pope revenge game.
There you go. Joby, any other thoughts on the bracket that we saw?
Not besides the fact you had to, for spite, put San Diego State versus Virginia. No, there are, and it's because of the demise of the Pac-12. We're now down to 5 conferences that are basically, and with NIL, those are really, especially those are really the where almost all the at-large bids come from now. Obviously we have St. Mary's and Gonzaga popping up a little bit, and San Diego State out of the Mountain West, but for the most part, when you only have those, it becomes the bracketing rules becoming remarkably complicated, as evidenced by the SEC last year and the Big 12 the year before. So we're going to find that again. And what also happens is your playing games, traditionally, the playing games, you'll have to look through history, have traditionally been the 12 line. And this year, I agree. It's going to be on the 11 line this year, along with maybe VCU and Memphis are actually below the cut line, with the 11 line plan. And so that squeezes in the bracket upwards and towards the top. And so we could have a lot of fun with under the radar teams getting worse teams because, now all of a sudden what was a 13 isn't playing a 4. They're a 12 seed playing a 5. And all of a sudden you could see that mix up and upsets come more often because higher quality teams from these under the radar conferences get worse teams, hypothetically. They're not getting a protected seed anymore. They're getting that 5 seed who, do they deserve a 5 or should they be an 8? Yeah. And so it could be a lot of fun how things turn out in the actual playing out of the NCAA tournament, even though it's due to the consolidation at the top group of conferences.
The lowest we've ever had an at-large playing game was the 14 line, but that was an outlier because the 2 teams that were involved, Iona and BYU.
Yeah, and just a real quick note here on those conferences. Every single at-large bid, other than St. Mary's as a 10 seed and Boise State in a play-in game in Dayton on this field here, was from those 5 conferences. That's it. While Gonzaga and San Diego State were up there, they would be presumed the automatic bid winners. So you're really only looking at 2 conferences here outside the top 5 that they're putting multiple teams in, which is almost unheard of in past years.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pull this down now, and I want to run through each of you for any other final thoughts you have on the show, and also want to ask each of you the following question. Who are your Final 4 heading into the season? Who is your national champion? And Matt, let me start with you on this question.
Well, I said, as we pivoted that thought, I am glad for the creation of the recreated Pac-12, where at least you'll have Gonzaga, you'll have San Diego State, you'll have Boise State. Hopefully Colorado State with Farouk Manesh gets it going to where that could be at least like a 3-4 bid league too, to add a little more diversity to this field. And that, and for that all said, my Final 4 is UConn, Florida, BYU, and Houston. And I got Houston winning it all. And I think AJ DeBonsis could be Player of the Year.
All right.
I am drinking the BYU Kool-Aid.
Drinking the BYU Kool-Aid, the one team that I thought that we had up high that was not a Final 4 candidate. Matt's in on them. Salika, how about you?
I think the 2 easiest teams that I would put in the Final 4 are going to be Purdue and Houston right now. UConn, I would probably put at about 9 out of 10 that they probably get in. And if I had to take a flyer on one other team, I'll probably go with Kentucky. There's got to be some SEC representation here. So sorry, Duke, probably not going to happen this year. And if I had to go with a national champion, I probably would be giving Houston an edge over Purdue because I think this would be the fourth time that Houston's going to be in the national title game, if I'm not mistaken, because 1983, 1984 last year, and the fourth time should be the charm for the Cougs.
Or fourth time's a charm. Titel, what do you think?
I believe in Houston and Purdue, like my other John. I'm going to go a little outside the box with the other two. I'm going to go with the Vols. They've made back-to-back Elite Eights. They bring in a great transfer at the point in Jacoby Gillespie. They bring in a projected lottery pick in Nate Ament. I just think there's something there, and I agree with Salika. Some SEC team is going to make it because there's just too many good teams in the conference. For my fourth, I'm actually going to go with the Zags, which is way outside the box, especially the way they played last year and the way that we seeded them this year. I believe in Mark Few in the Pat. He hasn't been great recently. He made a pair of title games in 2017 and 2021. And he just brings in all these other guys. Braden Smith, who was the Patriot League Player of the Year and redshirted all last year. Steele Venters was the Big Sky Player of the Year. He's missed the last 2 years due to injury. And surprisingly, Tyon Grant Foster, who I'd kind of given up on, but he got his eligibility waiver, and I think he's going to make the most of it before he turns 26 in March. And they have a brutal schedule, so they will be ready to roll in March once they get there. My champion, I'm going to go Vols as well, which I know is outside. Wow. I just believe in them. Rick Barnes has let me down many, many Marches in the past, but I'm starting to drink his Kool-Aid.
Wow. Joby, you were high on Tennessee. I don't know if you're quite that high on him.
No, I'm not. I mean, well, I do like Ament. I mean, he's that like I said, they found it seems like they perennially find that score and they have it against. Rick Barnes has his system in place, but no, I can see Elite Eight very easily, but I don't have him in the Final Four. Everybody's saying Purdue. Everybody's saying Houston. Can't disagree with those two picks. You've heard me bang the Florida drum over and over again. That's my SEC team that goes. My surprise, because I feel like you always have to have one surprise, and this is a boomer bust. Matt, you think you were talking a boomer bust team? Here is your boomer bust. If the pieces come together, this team is really good, and that is the Louisville Cardinals.
I could definitely see that too.
But the pieces might not come together. If they don't, they could easily miss the tournament. I mean, it is really boomer. The ceiling and floors are the highest in the country, I truly believe. My champion is a repeat. The Florida Gators. I just like the roster they put together. They lost pieces, but they got pieces to replace them were effective and are returning good pieces. I just like what they've done, and they've proven they have the mental toughness to do it as well because they've done it before.
I personally am not going to go much of a surprise. I am taking Houston in my Final Four and as my national champion to start off with. I like you. I hate to say it, but I like UConn this year. I think they do make the Final Four. Duke, just as I think is going to be there as my third. You got to go an SEC team. I also want to go a little bit off of the main picks here as well. I'm going Calipari. I'm going Arkansas as my fourth team in the Final Four. And as Joby said with Louisville, I could see Arkansas missing the tournament also. But I just have a feeling that he finds a way here in Arkansas, just to really stick it to Kentucky people and make the Final Four. As I said, Houston is my champion. Griggs.
Yeah, when you look at Purdue, it's just so hard to look at that talent. I know it's just sort of a cliche, not an exciting pick, preseason number one, but you kind of have to pick them. And I just think Houston is that good. They're ranked number two because they're the national runner-up, because they've been so solid. The worst thing I can say about Houston is that their front court is very good. It's not elite. I think they defend. I think they rebound. I think they're physical. They're built, even if they drop some games in November as they did last year, I think that they're built to go far in the tournament. So I have them in the Final Four. I have Florida winning the SEC, but I have Arkansas making the Final Four.
Wow.
I just think that, yeah, I'm with you on that. And then the fourth team, this is just a team that I really, really, really like. And I know it's probably similar to just a feeling that Tytel has about Tennessee, I have about this team. And I know it's a little bit off the reservation. I actually think as a program, they're undervalued on the national level. I have Texas Tech, and that's who I have winning it all.
Wow, the Raiders to win it all. Just a quick note. Only unanimous team for all of us is Houston in the Final Four. That means they're getting knocked out in the first round.
Yes, yeah. Wait, somebody didn't have Purdue?
I did not have Purdue.
Oh, okay, you didn't.
I didn't have Purdue either.
All right.
I actually we only had three of us on Purdue. On that note, though, I guess that does. I don't know what's going on there in the bottom corner of my screen. We got Jason Voorhees down there. But that does wrap up our preseason, all our preseason shows for the year. We will be back. We might do a show later on this week. Just keep an eye on the website.
Planning to, so yeah.
But beginning next week, our regular schedule of Hoops HD reports and Under the Radars every week. But until then, enjoy the games, everybody. Beginning in, about 8 hours away now, I think, 9 hours away.
Yeah.
But on behalf of David Griggs, John Tytel, Joby Fortson, Matt Sikowski, John Slika, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again real soon.